And we are live, guys. I started part one yesterday about what I'm passionate about. And I wanted to continue into part two because I wrote an entire A4 sheet of paper. And we pretty much got halfway done yesterday. And this is the second part. So I hope you're going to enjoy it. This was a revolutionary exercise. I recommend that you go back to part one because it's it's cool to get to know me, obviously. I do believe that I can absolutely and utterly change your life for the better. If the more time you spend with me, whether here online on YouTube, or if you spend it together with me one on one through coaching, I'll change your life. But obviously it's not a quick fix. But I will take you to where you want to go, one small step at a time. And I have a 100% hit rate of helping someone to get to financial freedom if they've stayed with me for longer than 4 years. 4 years, bro, that's so long. Bro, it's an education process to actually help you to where you want to go. And, financial freedom in 4 years, that's faster than a college degree that won't even get you a job many times, right? So there you go. Let's get right into it. We spoke about medication yesterday and replacing it with healthier alternatives. That's one thing that I'm passionate about. The next thing is I'm passionate about safety. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, safety first, right? Everything in life has to do with risk to reward. I am a trader, so as a result, I think like a trader, which means that I'm only going to take a risk if I believe that that's going to give me a reward at the end of the day. Why would you take a risk if you're not going to be able to double your investment or 10x your investment, right? So, safety first. In trading, we call it risk management. Those that don't manage risk, they die, right? When it comes to trading, they liquidate or they blow up their accounts. And I've done that hundreds of times, probably. Now, some people learn fast, but I've always loved leverage, right? I've always loved fast growth. And that's a problem unless you understand risk management, right? So this is something that I've become really, really passionate about over time, is the risk management aspect of things. And I know that I'm going to create lots and lots of success long term because of risk management. Some people say that, or experts or rich people say that you don't want, you just want to make sure you survive another day. That's really the goal of business. That's the goal of marriage. That's the goal of anything that you are trying to last a long time. You want to live another day and continue to roll the dice, right? If you die, you're not able to roll the dice. Then whatever happened, happened, and that's it, and you got to start over. But if you are able to continuously roll the dice, that means you're compounding. Things could potentially massively improve over time. So don't blow things up. Be safe. Safety first. Okay. I'm passionate about helping people overcome cancer. My father died of cancer. My great friend Wiles' father passed away from cancer, and he became passionate about diet. And I've learned a lot about it. Now, obviously, I haven't gone into it deeply, but I know that there's better ways to heal people than the current situation with chemotherapy and radiation. Obviously, that's where the medical uh, community has taken us. But I think there are basics to natural laws and things that can be done from a stress regulation perspective, a diet perspective, and positive thinking perspective that could actually do a lot more good than the medical community. But then again, I'm not a doctor, so don't quote me on this. And this might be uh, yeah, I should probably take this out of the video because of, you're not allowed to say stuff like this because it might lead people astray. Yeah. I think there's a lot of um, problems with the current medical community that can be solved when people return back to nature. That's all I'm going to say. I'm passionate about fitness. I'm passionate about helping families stay together. When it comes to fitness, health is everything. And when I say everything in quotation marks, I mean that relationships is everything. But if you're dead, or if you have horrible health, you can't think about relationships. You're not going to have capacity to think about other people because you're only going to be thinking about yourself. When you're extreme excruciating pain, there's no capacity to think about anyone else. It's like you're the victim now. You're not a victor, and you need other people to help you to get rid of this pain. I will at some point be in that situation where I have endless amounts of pain and I want to just, have other people help me to solve that pain. That's why fitness and being healthy is extremely crucial. It's putting on your own mask before you help someone else's mask, right? When it comes to, when you're on a flight, you get that. You're told that you need to help yourself before you can help others. Well, if relationships is the most important thing on planet Earth in order for us to have joy, bliss, and happiness, then fitness becomes just as important, because you can't help anybody if you're absolutely and massively struggling yourself, right? So let's make sure that we take care of ourselves continuously. I'm passionate about helping families stay together. If families are broken up, then children have to have two separate homes. The limbo that creates for a child when he could just simply have a home base that's safe, it becomes unsafe when families separate from each other. And if that happens 50% of the time, I mean, in my marriage, it happened 50% of the time. Well, what does that mean? Well, my parents managed to stick together, but my wife's parents didn't, right? So we're talking 50-50 inside of this household in terms of our parents. So that's probably going to be an approximate statistic out in the world. We know that divorce statistics are approximately 50%. I do believe that the people that get married the second and the third time are actually jacking up that percentage a lot more than we think. So the first time married people actually have a better percentage. And it's actually stopped declining as much these days. People are just, not getting married. That's kind of the trend that we're moving towards. That and as a result, the people that do get married very often end up staying together a bit longer. So or for life. I'm passionate about helping people to stick together no matter what. In other words, you should be very careful about who you marry. So I'm for that as well. That you should be learning about female nature. You should be learning about red flags. You should not enter into intense emotional relationships with the opposite gender from having intimacy before you get, you decide that this is the person that you're going to have for life. Because once you do get into that emotional situation, you're putting the woman in a very difficult situation, because now she's linked to you in some weird shape or form. And it causes her to not be able to bind or bond completely with her future husband if that ends up not being you. So for men to actually understand this principle and be very wary about who they decide to hitch up with from an intimacy perspective is absolutely crucial for helping families to stay together. This is one of the links that people don't understand yet, that they will in the future, just because of science. Research is going to say in the future, and I'm predicting this, that sleeping with other people or sleeping with multiple people throughout your life, right? And throughout the years before you get hitched is going to cause problems in that future marriage. And it's not necessarily from the intimacy. It's from the emotional attachment that happened because of the intimacy. And more often, that emotional attachment happens because of the rejection after the intimacy, right? So it's the emotional ties that we're trying to, not completely enter into. And so, yeah, you have to be very wise about the emotional ties that you make with women as a man. And as a woman, obviously, you got to do it as well. So I'm passionate about helping families to stay together, and that means that I'm passionate about that as well, in terms of helping men and women to not copulate, okay, to not get into bed with each other before they decided that we're going to be in this together for life. When I got married to my wife, okay, or a few weeks before we got married, because we got married quite quickly, I remember we became, together, right, as an item like exclusive. And 6 weeks later, we, got engaged. And then 6 weeks later, we were married. And 6 weeks later, she was pregnant. So, it's kind of a funny story when you look back at it from a date perspective. But that's what happened. And I remember specifically that I told her once we became exclusive that I don't break up with people. And I literally hadn't broken up with anyone since I had been 14 years old, right? And I was 22 at the time, so, I'd learned from my lesson that I didn't want to hurt a woman like that ever again, because I did. And even at 14 years old, I know I had a girlfriend at that time. So what was interesting was her reply, because she said, "I don't break up with anyone either." And that's when I was like, gosh dang, I guess it's us then. And I actually said that out loud. And that's kind of when we, knew that we were going to be together for long term. We just got an exclusive. Like that there's power in that. There's safety in that. There's you can make plans, right? You can create growth with the person. Now, obviously, you need to understand how to lead women so that she doesn't divorce you, because there are times when women are, unfortunately and fortunately, designed in such a way that she becomes a victim a lot faster than you do. Okay, think about that one for a second. And that means that you have to lead her the right way so that she doesn't want to divorce you, right? Because that's what happened 2.5 years after we got married. My wife said, "I don't want to divorce you." Yo, what the flip? Like, less than 3 years ago, you told me that you don't break up with people, right? And that's what happens to women. They're now creatures. They're different, right? A lot of people say that, well, we're more similar than we're different. Sure, but those differences are massive, okay? The way that the female brain is wired, just because of, the hormones, the different types of hormones that are fluctuating in our bodies. And the more feminine men become, the more similar to women they become. And the more women become men because of their testosterone stress-filled lives, the more they're going to become like men. And so as a result, we're going to believe that we're way more similar than we're different, when we have a massive difference there that you can't fix with, hormonal medication and all sorts of crap that people are doing these days. So as a result, we need to understand what those differences are between men and women, and recognize that men have way more responsibility than women have. Way more, okay? Women do have responsibility as well, but men have way more. Why? Because we have more capacity than them very often, okay? Not all the time, because there are some guys that are just completely off the wonkers, and, not because it's their fault, but because of the way they were raised and the environment that was created for them, and they haven't been able to get out of it. But we do have way more capacity than women. If you enter into a relationship with a woman, you'll find out that that's what you've got. And if you don't, that means that she's the man in the relationship. The one with the most capacity and capability, in other words, power, is the one that has the power in the relationship. Right? So if the woman that you're with has more power than you, she's the one with the pants, right? So just understand how this works, and that's, I'm passionate about it. So this is why I can talk about it for absolute, hours on end. I'm passionate about having women attracted to their husbands. This is part of the aspect that happened to me when my wife said that she didn't want to divorce me. It's an attraction issue, okay? The fact that I was not as powerful as I could have been. She was the one with the pants in the relationship at the time, and she was struggling because we just had 2 kids, and I was struggling to put, I wasn't struggling to put food on the table. We always had food on the table, but we're broke. And being broke when you've got kids is not good for the woman that you're with, because we can't buy the stuff that she needs. And when she needs it fast and she can't have it, you're burdening her unnecessarily, if it's like basic stuff, right? So from that perspective, I'm passionate about having women attracted to their husbands, which means I'm passionate about helping men to develop massive amounts of power in their lives so that they're useful, so that they have utility and they're capable of doing things that they need to get done in order for them to thrive and in order for the people around them to thrive, and especially their romantic partners. Because if you are a man that have a romantic partner that's not romantic with you, that means that you don't have power and you're living a life of quiet desperation, like Ralph Waldo Emerson put it. Right? So, like, men need to understand how attraction works and which rules they are breaking when it comes to that. And I keep breaking my own rules a lot of the time. And so I get what I deserve. The moment you follow the rules of attraction, though, everything changes. And this is not what the channel is about, although it is long term. I want men to understand women. But in the short run, you need to understand yourself first. There's 5 phases of leadership. One, you allow yourself to be led. Okay? And you're making sure that you're following someone worth following. Second of all, you lead yourself. That means that you begin to understand yourself. You begin to understand your own limitations and your emotional issues that came from your childhood. And understanding what needs to be reverse engineered so that you can have the life that you want. And as you do that, you will now be able to lead others. And I'm not talking about leading women and children yet, because that's phase 4 and 5. Phase 3 is leading other people. And I highly recommend that you lead other people as an entrepreneur. And, great if you're a middle manager in your company or as an employee, but you don't really have power to tell them what to do because you're being told what to do, right? At some point in time, you have to learn to become an entrepreneur that actually hires people. And that's even more important in these AI days where, well, why would you hire people when everything can be done automatically through AI? No. Into the future, if you're a good person, you will hire people to help you to achieve your goals, because you're going to create win-win situations as a result, and that's going to make your life richer, your business better, and you're going to be training other people that are coming after you. That's a way of giving back if you've got the funds and the means to do so. So when you're rich and you're not hiring people, you're actually doing the world and humanity a disservice, and you need to start investing. Right? So this is kind of how I look at the world. I'm passionate about this. Let's go. Passionate about avoiding divorce. You'll do that with helping men become more attractive to their spouses. I'm passionate about property rights. Woo, this is a big one. Property rights. Now, can we say that we actually own anything? Like, isn't everything borrowed? Like, just like our time here on this planet is borrowed time because, God gave it to us. Or we're given natural resources that was just placed here. How can you claim that as your own because it was placed here before you were even here? And how can you really say that you own anything when your parents gave you an education and helped you to, raised you properly, etc.? You don't really own anything. So there's a dual nature to this. One is you do own your own agency, though. That's completely on you, right? No one else owns your agency unless you're an actual slave. And even then, you still own your own agency to rebel or to follow, the slave owner, no offense in that regard, but that's a fact. Like, there's modern slavery these days as well. You can call it that. But you still have a choice. You still can decide what you want to do. Now, in a capitalistic society, you have even more choice, even more agency, and as a result, more responsibility. Because you don't have to work for that person. You can actually choose to get another job. And so you have agency in that circumstance. And part of that agency is that other people have their own agency as well. So coming back to property rights, you're not allowed, okay? It's not correct that you decide over what other people are doing, okay? They have their own choice. Everything should be voluntary. This is part of why I'm opposed to taxes long term. Short term, in the current situation that we're in order for us to save society, maybe taxes is temporarily necessary, gradually, right? We can't just suddenly make a government not have any tax whatsoever because, I mean, it would be great. It would be great. But because like all of the people working in government, they would have to suddenly now work in the private sector, and the private sector would massively boom. A lot of people would suffer because they wouldn't be able to find jobs because it would happen over time like this. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, so, but we need perspective, and you also need to help people to get, the neural connections in place and to give people time to make hard changes in their lives. So we temporarily have taxes, so we should probably temporarily keep them as well until eventually in the future we don't need them. Why? Because we take care of the poor and the needy. Because the private sector cares about people. Because rich people care about people. We're not at that point yet. At some point we will be. If we actually make correct decisions in the interim. We have to lead other people and show them the way. Right? Part of showing them the way is that you are going to have a better life if you help other people. And helping the poor and the needy, even though it's uncomfortable and you don't want to, is part of that process. And once we begin to understand this, why on earth would we give the government powers to do it for us? Like, you're going to give the blessings to the government? And the fact that the government doesn't do a very good job at it. They do somewhat of a job, but there's just so much corruption going on in high places, and so much money that is funneled away. Like, I remember reading an article one time about how in Norway it takes 20% of all tax income for the government is spent on bringing in that tax. Like 1 out of 5. Like, do you get what I'm saying? And then we learn about all of the weird stuff that they do with our taxes, right? Both in Norway, America, worldwide, because politicians aren't the best investors and understand risk to reward ratio, like we spoke about in the beginning of this video, right? Politicians go into politics because they like telling people what to do. Okay. Now, I gotta admit, I kind of like that as well. But if you don't know what people should be doing, and you're creating laws that obstruct people from doing good, that's not good, right? So I'd rather have fewer laws and create voluntary measures instead, right? You see the difference? This comes back to property rights, where all people have agency of their own. And I don't want to take that away from them. That means that they need to be able to choose what they want to do. And I'll love to tell you what to do with your time if you want me to help you with that. But at the end of the day, you're responsible for you. If I tell you to do something and you do it, who's the one that actually did it? You did. Okay? Like, I've had clients in the past where sometimes I wonder, like, was I responsible for their success? And it's like, no, they listened to me. And so when you listen to someone that has experience in something, then you're the one that's responsible. That means that you created your success with the influence from someone that you chose to have in your life. It's a really powerful concept when you understand this also from a coaching perspective, because the coach only has so much power, right? This is why coaches can't say with 100% certainty that you're going to achieve this result or you don't pay, right? Although coaches do say that, but they also know that that person is not going to do what they're going to do. And so they make up a list of things that you need to do in order for you to get your money back. And sometimes that list is just absolutely massive. And so you're not going to get your money back, right? I do plan to, at some point in the future, maybe I'm going to create, money back guarantees in terms of like, if you do these small, few simple things, I'll give you your money back when you succeed. Because that means that, they'll be excited about participating. There's no risk to participating. And then they find out how it actually is to work with me. And so they actually stick around. So, so that's awesome. But in general, you're the one who's responsible for your life. You're the one that has to, that determines whether you're someone who wins or whether you're a victim. And I can only spew my words of experience, and then it's up to you what you do with it. So, again, back to property rights. People are responsible for their decisions. We've been given borrowed time, borrowed resources, borrowed everything. But at some point, you own what you've created from win-win situations. So if I have found something and I found it first, then, like, it's a debate who actually owns it, right? And there's a lot of wars that have been fought based on this principle, right? But if we also understand that relationships is the most important part of life, and we couple that with property rights, we'll respect people. And so, yeah, you can argue that the things that happened in the past when people fought over land space and fought over resources that they had found first, yeah, those were different times. We're in a specific new time right now where property rights need to remain supreme. If you own something, someone should not come in and take it from you, and you should be allowed to defend yourself from that person taking it from you because it's your property. And if we don't abide by that simple, basic principle, and that's what this channel is about, is teaching you the basics of life that will change the trajectory of where you're going from a positive perspective. If you understand property rights, things will be good for you because you'll focus on improving relationships, and you'll only create win-win situations where you're not taking something from someone against their will and behind their back or as a scam. So you don't have to pay a karma debt in the future that you had from the past. And that's going to that's going to allow us to evolve as a species into the future instead of making ourselves extinct. Because if we have war against each other, that means that we didn't abide by the property rights rules. So it comes back again to, are you sleeping with someone else's future wife? Because if you are, you're violating this principle. This comes back to fathers. Fathers own their children. And I put that in quotation marks because children have their own agency at some point, right? And that agency grows over time in many ways on a scale. But eventually they come to a point where they have their own agency. And as parents, we need to give them more and more responsibilities. And the more responsibility we give them, the more agency they now have. If they don't have any responsibilities and they're forced to do everything, then that force is the parent's responsibility. Now, everything that they've given to their kids in terms of what they should be doing, if that continuously is forced, then the kids don't have agency. And if they don't have agency, they're not prepared for the real world where property rights is going to reign supreme, hopefully. They're going to be entitled. We don't want entitled kids to grow up to become adults, right? Because entitlement is what is ruining society. I'm entitled to sleep with whoever I want. Well, great. You're just destroying society, right? I'm entitled to, and I'm talking about now if you haven't committed for life. Once you commit, it's actually a responsibility for men to commit to life, to take on the responsibility of a family at some point in the future. That's my personal opinion. Obviously, you might have completely different value system, but I'm passionate about this, and I'm passionate about property rights, and I'm passionate about the fact that you own your woman when you are committing to her for life, but she owns you too. This is very important. And I'm saying, she owns you. And so if you are leaving her behind, you're actually violating property rights. Obviously, it's a bit different if she's, going to kill you or something like that, right? Obviously. And but the vast majority of the time, she's not, right? So, yeah, just something on property rights here. Very interesting, very important. Okay. I'm passionate about freedom as well, right? So, property rights, freedom, responsibility, all of this stuff. You need to, it's important that we understand it because this is what allows us to either evolve or to become extinct. I'm passionate about education so that we can have a libertarian system politically. The more people understand themselves, the more they understand female nature, the more they understand the world, the more they'll understand that at some point in time, the world needs to become more and more free or return back to more and more freedom. Because more and more freedom creates more and more consequences for you. Because the more freedom there is, the more agency you have. That means the more responsibility you have, the more responsible you have to be, and the faster you grow as a result. And the faster you grow, that means that the faster other people around you grow, and as a result, we evolve more quickly. There's nothing wrong with evolving quickly as long as we're responsible with that evolution, right? Like, tech is not bad, right? AI can become really bad if AGI gets completely unleashed and everyone is like competing to make it more and more and more powerful, because that could potentially also extinct us, right? But if we're responsible, then it can't, because we'll take safety precautions and we'll actually have a risk to reward ratio. And maybe people will be like, we need to slow this process down of evolving this thing. And I'm going to, have property rights understanding. So I'm not going to try and attack your country. And I'm not going to try. See where all this goes? There's tons of rich people that do not understand these things. And that's why I'm passionate about education, to help people to understand how to live in harmony with each other. Because if we all did, if we all understood these things, and it has to do with education, we would have utopia. People are like, well, you can't create peace on earth. You can't make, you can't end wars. That's impossible, because people are going to remain people. The only reason why they're doing what they're doing is because of ignorance. The only reason why, they don't understand property rights. And if they do understand it, they're going against it, which means they're going against truth, because what I've just mentioned to you is the truth. It's like, it's fact from where I see it. But it's also just an opinion from a random YouTuber, and who knows, maybe someone has a better opinion. But if you understand these concepts, it just makes complete sense, and that is what truth is. It's like that which works, and that's what makes sense in the long run, in the big scheme of things. That's all that truth is. So, let's keep going. I'm passionate about basketball. Okay, I'm coming back to my hobbies here. I actually only have really one hobby that doesn't really produce money or lose a lot of money. Because trading could potentially lose a lot of money as a hobby. But once you become professional about it and you cease to be an amateur, you become professional, and that means you're making a lot of money. So, but basketball is the only thing where I know I won't be making money ever, because I'm 40 years old almost in 4 months' time. And but I love basketball. I love shooting around. I love, how the entire sport works. I love statistics. Like, back in the day, basketball was pretty, like 20, 30 years ago, basketball was the only sport that had lots of statistics. It had points, it had rebounds, it had assists, it had 3-point shooting, it had field goal average, it had all of these statistics. Soccer didn't have statistics. It was like, you got one goal. I remember recording how many goals a player scored an entire season. And I did that for that was my type of fun, okay, back then. I'm telling you, I love numbers, I love statistics. And that was it. Like, that there was, like, now they have tons of statistics for for football, soccer, or whatever you want to call it. Because like they measure how many, meters they run in a game, and they measure all these types of fancy statistics. But bro, have you seen the type of statistics that people have made for basketball? Like, it is insane. They have like an entire website where they go through all these types of statistics. And I personally think that it's the sport with the most statistics when you really think about it. Now, obviously, I think it's a bit too advanced at this point, but I love it. Okay, I love basketball. And I love shooting the ball in the hoop. I think that's a funny sentence. But that's the only thing that I pretty much love. Like, I don't go on the court and just dribble, dribble, dribble. I want to at some point get good at that as well. But man, my favorite feeling in the world is shooting 3-pointers, far away shots that just beautifully go in because I repeatedly practiced. And it also is just fantastic attitude shifter. Uh, what do you call it? It's it's therapy for me. Okay, so absolutely love it. Passionate about consistency. I'm a consistency coach. What is the power of consistency? Consistency is when you do something that's easy to do every single day over an extended period of time, and you experience the next part, which I'm passionate about, is growth and compounded interest. So when you are consistent with something that's good and not bad, you're going to have an exponential growth curve compared to an exponential decline curve. Everything in nature and everything in the universe is exponential as long as you do it consistently. And the thing about us as humans is that we do everything consistently. It doesn't seem like we do things consistently. No, we don't do the things that help us grow consistently. We do the things that we do on a daily basis. It's called habits, extremely consistently. And this is why we end up sick and eventually die, because that's an exponential decline curve that happened as a natural result of your habits. So if we actually had the correct habits in place, we would heal faster than we deteriorate, which means that we would exponentially continuously grow in terms of energy and life force and etc. Right? We haven't gotten to that point yet, but there's no reason to not believe that we can at some point live forever. Now, I also believe in the resurrection, okay? Because I believe that, the people that live forever should be allowed to get to see the people that lived in the past. Why not? Right? And why should only the people at the end of the cycle, be the ones that survive forever? No, that's not fair. And I believe in the fair universe and the fair God, which means that the people that die early, we stand upon the shoulders of giants, right? Their advancements and the things that they learned allowed us in the future to be able to live forever. But they're going to be rewarded for that. They're not just going to lay there in the ground and just, that's it. That's why the soul is forever. So this is basics. I look at this as basics. It makes so much sense. Okay, I'm passionate about Bitcoin. Why? Bitcoin is one of the most beautiful inventions of all time if it's real. Okay, and what I mean by if it's real, who knows if the government created it? Who knows if the thing that is, driving that thing doesn't have a backdoor thing, or quantum physics or quantum whatever is able to break into the wallets. Now, there's ways I believe that they're going to be able to prevent that from happening, but in general, developing a trustless system that people can use as money that can be sent instantaneously and for very cheap, and it has a fixed supply. Whoa. It is an amazing invention once you understand it. So should you have some of it? Yeah, you should. It's also grown 70% year over year since the very beginning of 2009, right? And it was put in place as a result of the financial system is going to blow up and we need to have a reserve. We need to have a backup, which eventually I believe is going to strip the dollar from being the reserve currency. I think Bitcoin is going to be the reserve currency of the world in the future. And that can be a good thing. That could be very interesting from a transparency perspective because everyone's going to know who has what during that time frame. Maybe. Who knows if they're going to be able to invent something that allows Bitcoin to be anonymous. It's been anonymous for a long period of time, but the more guardrails are put in place, you're only anonymous if you haven't traded Bitcoin, if you haven't bought it or sold it recently, because they put these rails on the exchanges that causes you to have to verify yourself, right? KYC, know your customer. And so, but I absolutely love it. I think it's a fantastic invention and you should have some. And I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about exponential growth. Yeah, that's part of compounded interest. I'm passionate about passion. I'm passionate about energy and the human experience. I'm passionate about drive. Okay, all those things kind of go together. I learned today, I put a passion etymology because I was using that word a lot in the last two videos. Passion means suffering or endurance, right? And it actually came from the suffering of Jesus, interestingly enough. But what I've what I think is fascinating about it is that all of these things that I'm passionate about, in quotation marks, don't really matter if I don't live for those passions, right? And what does that mean? That means that I'm willing to suffer for those passions. I'm willing to go through a lot of hardship for these principles. And I'll die, probably, right? We haven't figured it out yet, before I'm able to uh, solve these equations for the vast majority of people. But my contribution to world history, hopefully, will have an impact upon millions of people if I just keep going. And if I keep suffering, quotation marks, towards bringing them to life. And that is an amazing way to live my life. A period of time I was thinking, you know what? Maybe people have to figure this out on their own. Maybe that's good for them. Maybe I can just kind of uh you know, go away from the social media light. I know I don't have a lot of light on me, okay, from a social media perspective, and I don't have a lot of attention. But at some point, if I kept going and I kept being very staunch about my principles and, only, improved them based on new enlightenment and revelations coming from, people that I admire, like, imagine if I just stopped producing content. Imagine if I just stopped bringing light and this message to the world and just like, you know what? They'll figure it out themselves. Let me just hang out there on my farmland and just enjoy my cows and my chickens and feed my family and, and just enjoy my life. Bro, really? Are you serious? Lifestyle business? Yo, bro, I believe that your responsibility is to create a business that outlives you, that outlasts you, that has thousands upon thousands of employees because it will have grown you. You have to become a better person, a stronger person, a wiser person as a result. And it's not about the $1 million or the $1 billion, which is inevitable if you keep going and you're actually, and you have a talent for business. Even if you don't have a talent for business, I believe that it's also your responsibility to become self-employed at some point in time next to your full-time job. And as a man, I sincerely believe that that's extremely important for you to do, to experience masculinity, to experience suffering and hardship and eating glass, so to speak, because it's going to make you a better human being. And obviously, there are rich people that, don't, that are not better human beings. But you'll find on average that rich people are better human beings than poor people. On average, okay? Well, if you look at the median person of rich people and you start talking to them about life, about the principles they've learned, about what they value, what they care about, you'll notice that the median and the average of a billionaire is much better from these principles and property rights and and freedom and like they will have learned a lot more about life and about themselves than poor people. No offense to poor people, but poor people are ignorant. And that includes people that, don't make $1 million. And I don't make $1 million yet, so that includes me, right? So once you understand this, you realize that there's so many different levels to this life. And our responsibility as men, if we understand this, and if we're good, honest, integral men, we need to outcompete the ignorant rich people. Billionaires that are doing bad things should not be billionaires. And the only way that we can take it away from them, not through taxes, because that's ridiculous. There are some YouTubers that talk about this and think that that's what we should be doing. No, that's not what we should be doing. We should be competing against billionaires with producing better products and services that those billionaires did. Because if you think about it, there's so many problems on planet Earth. One of the biggest ones being that there's 90% crap in the stores. Like you go into the store and you want to buy something healthy, 90% of it is absolute junk. You can't even buy it. Like, what's up with that? And as if we don't have natural resources that are healthy and that could actually allow us to live, long term. So they need competition. Because if they don't get competition, then they're comfortably raking in millions, billions, from just selling us crap, products and services that are not good for us. So at some point, you have to take responsibility for improving that situation. It's your responsibility because you have agency. If you didn't have agency and you'd be killed because you're trying to choose something, okay, yeah, then you have less agency, but you have agency. And that means that you can do something about it because we're living in a capitalistic society where you can level up and get to a completely different stage of life over time. It's not immediate, obviously, but you've got freaking 40, 50, 60 years ahead of you to make changes and to improve things. Gosh dang. You know what I'm saying? All right. I'm passionate about experiencing the world's most beautiful beaches. I haven't traveled the world as much as I wish. I've had kids, and traveling, like, I can't travel on my own to these beautiful beaches of the world. I would have to bring them with me, right? Or else it's rude. I remember my dad, he actually did that. He took my oldest brother and they went to Rarotonga, to the South Pacific, and they experienced the beaches. Now, obviously they were working, and he was making a movie production down there, but still, at the same time, like, we didn't get to go. Obviously, he had 8 kids, 7 kids that were living at home. So for him to, like, yo, we'll just bring 7 kids with us. Like, do you imagine how expensive it was back then in 19? When did they go? Probably 1995, 2000, around that time. And yeah, like, it was expensive. It wasn't the globalization cheap flight tickets that we have these days. And even today, flight tickets to the South Pacific is pretty expensive. So yeah, but they did experience that, and I guess that, maybe I was a little bit traumatized by that, playfully joking dad. But I want to travel the beautiful beaches of the world, and I'm passionate about family. I'm passionate about travel. I'm passionate. I wrote that twice. I'm passionate about speaking on stage as a public speaker. In the future, I can envision On Track having own events and seminars where we're helping people to level up and to give them a vision of what's possible. And maybe it's like it'll kind of be like revivals of some sort, right? But let's make it affordable, and let's make it possible for people to see their heroes on stage. I mean, there's something great about YouTube, and you can just watch your hero. Like me, my hero right now these days from a business perspective is Alex Hormozy, because he teaches the same stuff that I do, just at a completely more advanced level that I want to come to at some point in the future. And but imagine me being able to see him live. Whoa! And I want to be able to bring that to the general public in the future. And I'll be as public speaker at that time. I'm passionate about storytelling. I'm passionate about creating vision of what people could do, right? And helping them to dream. I'm passionate about singing, although I reduced that part of me greatly. I kind of looked at being a musician, an artist, as somewhat feminine, and I was right, right? But at the same time, it's a part of me that I don't want to let completely die, and I looking forward to, once I revive that, also in my own home. My wife loves singing, and so I wanna be able to do duet with her at some point. To do the fun songs of the world. And but yeah, I'm passionate about it because I've got a talent that I didn't really use to its fullest potential. Although I was a singer in my teenage years and got on TV for it and all sorts of stuff. So but that was in the past, but I can bring it into the future if I want to. I'm passionate about my 3 kids, obviously. I'm passionate about my wife. They're the greatest inner circle to have in my life. I'm so happy that I could have them. And I always tell guys that they should, procrastinate getting married and having kids. Oh my gosh, bro. Yes, but at some point, it's time. You know what I mean? Like, you can't live your entire life without experiencing the joys that family brings and the pains. But if you remember the aspect of getting rich, and that's like eating glass, and the hardship and the pain and suffering that you get from building a business, well, guess what? It's the same thing with family living. You're gonna suffer. Fantastic. What's that gonna do to you if you don't give up? You're gonna improve, right? And that's why you shouldn't get a divorce, because the woman in your life is going to be a reflection of your issues. And as long as you keep progressing and solving those issues, you become a better person. So that's a good thing, right? So family life is fantastic, and it's a responsibility of men to take that responsibility on them and make the world a better place as a result of it, because you grow, and then you make the next generation better than you were because you raised them properly. You it's such an important skill to have, of being able to lead kids, because leadership is everything. You are a leader. And so what does that mean? Should you find a woman immediately? You should learn the basics of life. Okay? Remember, allow yourself to be led, lead yourself and lead others. I personally think that the priority should be for you to start your own business on the side of your job and putting in some extra work ethic in order for you to learn these things, so that you're ready and you have the guts and the balls to take on that family. You didn't have courage in the past, but now you've got courage. So how long should you put it off for? I think that, you know, obviously you need maybe some outside perspective. Maybe you need some coaching to kind of determine, am I ready for this? Because I would want to encourage you to do it, but not with the wrong person. But if you're the wrong person, then you're always going to attract the wrong people into your life. So you need to become the right person. And when you become the right person, that naturally flows. You're going to naturally attract the right woman into your life. And so that's going to be a positive thing that changes everything. So I'm excited about that. And I'm passionate about getting rid of waste. What does that mean? Like, I always eat, leftovers, making sure that there's not that much leftovers. I don't like government waste when they're basically investing, because everything that is not spent is spent. Right? You understand what I mean? Like, if it has an expiry date, right? And dollars has an expiry date, so you need to spend it, right? So you need to invest it. And that's wasteful if you're not investing dollars into something that does appreciate over time. And so, like, waste is the opposite of investment. Investing in things that have a great long-term future is a good thing. Waste is the opposite. And government is waste. Now, it does some good, so you could say it's an investment. We're investing in our people by giving them an education and allowing them to take out loans of $200,000, at 5 to 10% interest rate per year. Is that an investment? Okay, that's waste, because very often they shouldn't be taking that college degree because it's crap and they're not going to get a job, and as a result, it's wasteful, right? And we're wasting people's taxes by creating those types of systems. My gosh, right? So there's obviously a lot more waste in life, but those are just two examples that I thought of right now. I'm passionate about GRIP and pay yourself first. What does GRIP stand for? Growth fund, reserve fund, indispensables, and party, okay, or play. And those are basically the allocations of money that you should segregate once you get your income. After taxes, you put some to the growth fund, and you do that on the day that you receive that money. Okay, and the growth fund is to invest in you and in your education to make sure that you're massively progressing exponentially into the future. I highly recommend consistency coaching. It's $299 a month right now, and you get to work with me individually. That's pretty freaking cool. Imagine talking to me on a daily basis. Hey, that can take you to some places if you took it seriously. If if you're not going to reply and keep running away, I don't want you as a client, right? But if you actually take it seriously and you want to progress in life and you want to talk to me on a daily basis, which will help you progress in life, growth fund, right? But even if you don't want to invest in me, and that's fine. But find another coach, or find other courses, or find other educational means that allow you to help you to get to making twice as much as you're making now, making 10K a month, making 20K a month. That time needs to come at some point in the future. And they will only come if you invest in growth and in you growing, right? And then secondly is reserves. Obviously, investments are going to go up and down over time, but pick a reserve that most likely will go up over the next 10 years. And I recommend gold, silver, Bitcoin, and Ethereum, because these will most probably go up in value over the next 10 years, right? And so think in decades, not in terms of months. You don't want to save just cash. You need to have some cash, right, for the next 3 months, kind of emergency fund type situation. But you want to invest all of the rest of the money that you've got into gold, silver, Bitcoin, Ethereum, because that's going to grow over time, and you want your reserves to grow over time, which means that over year, most likely, if you do this, your reserves is going to grow instead of declining by 10% a year like the dollar does pretty much because of inflation. Indispensables is basically everything else that you need for your life in order for you to survive and thrive. And then play and party is like setting aside some money in order for you guys to have fun. You guys. Yeah, there you go. So pay yourself first. I'm very passionate about it, and I try to bring it up as often as I can with everyone that I talk to because it changed my life forever once I properly understood it. I read about it when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad back in the day in 2008 for the first time is when I read it 17 years ago. It took me years to actually truly thoroughly understand it. And I had to in order to simplify it for other people, I had to create the grip system. It doesn't exist anywhere. Rich people understand it, but it doesn't understand it's not anywhere to be taught or to be learned. So I had to create that, and I'm very, very grateful that I did that. I'm passionate about reading. I'm passionate about movies. I read a whole lot more back in the day, but I'm getting back into reading now because I got to keep up with the times. Like, there's so much new stuff to learn, but I do believe in mastering the classics and the basics first. So if you haven't read things like Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad Poor Dad, How to Win Friends and Influence People, like Magic of Thinking Big, these are books that are like classics that you should be reading 10 times before you even start reading anything else because you need to have the basics down, right? I'm passionate about movies. I'm passionate about great jokes, right? So I'd be passionate about comedy. I'm passionate about Friends. I'm watching Friends now with my daughter. Obviously, yes, they're having, they talk about intimacy stuff. They talk about real life stuff. Like, if you actually watch Friends, they make comedy out of the things that are real life issues in society. And if you master those 10 seasons, I'm not saying that you should, but watch it because it could be a waste of time. But for me, I absolutely love it. And you have no idea how truthful those scripts are. People will be like, "What? You talking about the same show as I like Joey and Chandler and Rob?" Yes, okay, Friends. If you study, like, some things are obviously not correct, but 95% of the stuff that they talk about and the way that they'd react, and and the way that they react to each other, and it's awesome that they're friends and they show friendship that can be emulated in real life. I mean, it's an amazing show. Okay, it is the best show that the world has ever seen. And I'm so grateful for the script writers of it and for those that created it. I can't thank them enough because it revolutionized and changed my life as a teenager. And I absolutely loved what it gave me. So I'm passionate about passion. I wrote that again. I'm passionate about solutions. I'm passionate about masculinity and femininity. And understanding that one, I think, is the ultimate solution to the world. And it has weird connotations these days. Men are being stripped of their masculinity, and women, can't be feminine anymore. And that is why we have the dating market that we've got today. So that's why I say, understand the woman, understand the world. But yeah, oh my gosh, I wrote a book about it back in the day. Long story, but it's not. It's not really a book. It's more like a PDF that I put into book form, which cost $20. But I'm not promoting it because someone hacked into my Amazon account, and I'm not able to access it at all. Like, even Amazon won't give me access because it needs to be on the email that is tied to the account. But someone hacked into it and changed the email, so I don't have access to that email, so I can't get the money from the royalties of the book that's maybe sold out there. I don't even know if it's sold. I can't log into the account. So there you have it. But yeah, it's I know a thing or two about masculinity and femininity because that was my pain. That was my mess. My mess became my message. So there you have it. I'm passionate about customer acquisition cost. What is that? That is something that Hormozy revealed to me. Okay, I had no idea about this. I've been doing business for more than a decade, and I had no idea what CAC was. And now I know because of Hormozy. Okay, this is how important it is to listen to the greats. And he's the great. Okay, today, bro, he's gonna be a billionaire so fast. Like, we're talking in the next few years, he'll be a billionaire, which means that he could technically become I think he's going to be one of the most powerful people on the planet if he just keeps going. And I don't know why he wants to keep going, but he has a drive for it, and I hope that he does, because it's amazing what he teaches and is going to make the world a better place. Literally. And if you'll notice, he's actually a lot happier these days. Now, you wouldn't notice because you haven't followed him, but I've noticed he wasn't as happy as he was building, but now he's understood some certain principles in life that's exciting to me to see his happiness levels increase. So, and you can see it in his face. Anyway, customer acquisition cost means how much it costs you to get a customer. I could make an entire video on just this alone, and I won't. Maybe I will. Maybe. But if you understand CAC in your business, how much does it cost you money wise? And there's a number. How much it costs you to get a client. Okay, and you don't know, maybe, and that's what the next thing is, lifetime gross profit. Okay, if you understand CAC and you understand lifetime gross profit, which is basically how much you make from that customer long term because you solving solutions for them, right? And then they graduate and then they quit, which is a great thing if they've graduated and you actually help them solve their problem. If you didn't help them solve their problem, they'll try and solve it somewhere else. And that's fine because you didn't manage to solve it, right? So, but if we understand CAC and we understand lifetime gross profit, and your gross profit is $1,000 and your CAC is $200, that's a 5x. And can you manage to bring that $1,000 within 30 days is the ultimate, because that means that you're 5xing your money within 30 days. That's huge. And if you understand those numbers, that means that, hey, you know what? I can keep doing promotions and keep putting in effort in acquiring more customers as long as I don't really push it too far. Like, if I push it to 300, fantastic. 350, okay, we're pushing it now because you should have a 3-to-1 ratio on it. CAC is the risk and lifetime gross profit is the reward, right? Risk management is making sure that the CAC doesn't go up too high. And then the lifetime gross profit, like, you need to have that be 3-to-1 ratio. And if you do that, that means that you can exponentially increase your business until that 3-to-1 ratio breaks. And then you need to recalibrate and figure out what to do to improve it, right? So, very powerful concept, because if you have an offer that gets 100-to-1 risk to reward ratio, reward to risk ratio, imagine CAC then, and that you can pump $10,000, $100,000, $1 million, $100 million into ads in order to promote your stuff, as long as as long as it doesn't go to 3-to-1 ratio, it's a good thing to do. You see how investment changes when you're a business owner? It's pretty freaking powerful. I'm passionate about YouTube. YouTube is the best platform on planet Earth right now. I do hope to make a better social media platform for entrepreneurs, but I'm not going to take away YouTube in any way, shape, or form. Like, listen to me talk, bro. Thoughts of delusion. Grandeur, right? But I do want to replace LinkedIn in the future. If you want to be a part of that, make sure you DM me, because we're gonna do great things. And in terms of YouTube, though, I'm passionate about it because it is TV these days, and TV was a huge part of people's lives for the past 50 years before YouTube came around. And now YouTube is TV, and you get to, with one click of a button, watch whatever it is that you want. What an invention, bro. What an invention. And they pay you money. Like, you get 55% of ad revenue that business owners that can do what I just told you about with CAC, that goes into YouTube. Like, my gosh, okay? If you don't have a YouTube channel yet, start one and get good at it. And what that means is get good at the packaging. In other words, getting good at the ideation of having people click that video. I'm still not good at packaging. The moment I solve packaging issue with my YouTube channel, everything changes. Okay? Ideation, the thumbnail, and the hook. That's it. That's pretty much it. And then just keep making a better and better and better video. But if you just get better at those 3 things first, that's going to change your life forever, and is going to change the trajectory of your YouTube channel. And as a result, you're going to get more freedom from it because there's tons of money in it. And the fun part is that there's way more money from a YouTube channel outside of YouTube. So if you're a big YouTuber that wants to work with me to launch, to launch school communities that can uh, that can make you more money within 30 days, most probably, than you're making from ad revenue because you got the eyeballs already, hit me up because I can help you to do that successfully. But bro, having an audience is the top of the funnel. It's the most important thing to have, and it drives fame and it drives people to trust you. And as a result, you can build massive things just from doing YouTube. And you could choose to just do YouTube for the rest of your life if you wanted to, and just talk about stuff that you're excited and passionate about and educate people on it through entertainment or education or edutainment, right? Or you could do that plus having a business on the side that just massively multiplies the revenue streams and profits. Amazing. As you can see, I'm passionate about entrepreneurship. I'm passionate about solving unnecessary problems. I'm passionate about sacrifice. That goes with passion. Most of all, I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about life. I'm passionate about doing God's will. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's not even about God. It's about win-win. It's about you and me collaborating. It's about us having fantastic relationships with each other, which, as our Father who art in heaven, the only thing that he wants is for his kids to get along. And that's God's will. That's what we should be doing on a day-to-day basis. If we can learn how to get along with each other through people skills and understanding property rights, we're aligning the world towards entering into a utopian phase. And that would be freaking awesome. And then we can teach our kids properly from the get-go. And are there always going to be ignorant people? Absolutely. Because new kids are born continuously, right? But our job is to then educate them so that we can continue to live in utopia. And then we get to travel to other planets, and a lot of cool stuff is going to happen in the future, okay? The future's bright. I'm excited for you, and I'll see you guys in the next one.